And I said, so his eyes are okay? And she said, yeah. She said, we don't ever see people that are burned this bad that their eyes are in as good a shape as his. That was really important to me when we first got there, to know that he was going to be able to see me for the rest of my life.
Nielson, I grew up here in Wyoming, kind of a blue-collar ranch kid. Grew up working on a ranch when I was younger, always in the, I guess, the blue-collar kind of industry. I mean, mechanicing was always a dream of mine, and I enjoyed every day of it. When I was sent out to do a job, I ended up getting covered in what they call condensate, wet condensate, which is just a liquid form of natural gas. The best thing that they can come up with is a static electricity, set it off.
When I first heard about the accident, we were getting ready to go on vacation that day, so I was at home packing the car, getting things ready. I knew Nate was supposed to twist off a little bit early that day, and so I was getting everything ready, and I was at home making blueberry muffins when I got the call, which is a really strange thing to remember, but that's what I was doing. And it was one of Nate's supervisors that called, who I actually knew personally, and he just said, I know Nate was in an accident, and you need to get to the hospital, and you need to get there now. They brought me into the chapel room of the hospital and said, sorry. So they brought me into the chapel at the hospital and said that they were bringing a jet for Nate because the helicopter wasn't fast enough. So I had roughly a 5-hour drive to get to Greeley, which is where they were sending him at the burn center. And the doctor sat me down in a room and he said, your husband's mortality rate is 120%. I didn't even realize that they meant that they were talking about him dying and that his chance of dying was 120%. Once I figured out how serious it was, I got to talk to one of the nurses, and she said, he's got the biggest blue eyes I've ever seen, and he just stuck his tongue out at me. And I said, so his eyes are okay? And she said, yeah. She said, we don't ever see people that are burned this bad that their eyes are in as good a shape as his. If there was any sense that he was going to lose, I didn't want it to be his eyesight. I wanted him to be able to see. We could deal with him not being able to hear. We could deal with him without having hands. That was really important to me when we first got there, to know that he was going to be able to see me for the rest of my life.
So this is my hard hat and safety glasses that I was wearing that day. All of this, all my gear, I didn't leave anything inside the building that blew up. Everything ended up outside, away from the fire, so it's not like this sat in there and melted for a day or till the fire department showed up. This is the way my body went through that fire also. You can see right where, you know, if I put these on, right where they were riding on my face and saved my eyes. I made the choice to put that stuff on, and I really believe it was a life-changing decision to have my PPE on. You definitely hit a point where you're like, man, my life's not gonna be the same. One of the biggest things I think was shooting archery and shooting a bow for me. And that's something I kind of wrote off for a long time, and I, you know, kind of talked about it. And Tonya was actually the one that pushed me, no, you can do this, just figure it out and get into it, you know. And to realize I gotta learn how to redo all this stuff. You know, the littlest things from I can't even take a drink of water, you know. Once that stuff started to hit me, I started to, I think, really have an eye awakener of, man, this is a lot worse than I thought it was, and I'm in pretty darn rough shape. But I think realizing that you're okay, it's just gonna be a new normal, and figuring out life, you know, you still have a lot of the same things, you can still do a lot of the same things and have fun, but you might have to do it differently.
At the end of the day, make sure that you are saying your I love yous. Make sure that the time that you do have with them, you're making it count, because there is a lot of time that you don't get to spend with your spouse because of the type of work that they do, but it's a dangerous job, and we know it's all a dangerous job. And we take that chance every day by sending our spouse out into the field. So I guess my advice would just be, give them an extra big hug and tell them you love them even more.